there are a lot of people who view the David Moyes managerial contract situation with absolute certainty. They're certain that he's going to leave, or they're certain he's going to sign a new deal. The only thing that's certain to me is the uncertainty, if that makes any sense at all. I don't know what's going on. That's the truth of the matter. One thing I do know is that David Moyes must appreciate the value of him finishing well this season, finishing strongly, because that is going to make the difference whether he gets a new contract or not. And what that does now is it plays in to the transfer business in this transfer window. That's why I'm convinced we're really pushing the boat out to get Kalvin Phillips. It's why I'm I say convinced, why I'm let's say optimistic that we're going to get another player as well, because I do believe that those two players, so that's Kalvin Phillips and one other, we'll discuss the candidates in just a second, will make the difference. In fact, I think they can almost guarantee European football. That Moyes got to know this. He absolutely must be aware of the currency in him finishing in the top six, getting a fourth season of European football, and how that probably insulates him from any inkling that the board might have that they might want to get rid of him. There are a number of reasons for my uncertainty. I'm not even certain that the club know the future of the ownership. I think, bearing in mind, it's safe to assume that that's up in the air. You've got to remember, we've got a whole load of shares. Some of David Gold's family shares are up for sale at the moment. We've got some investors who have shown themselves more than willing to sell the stakes in whatever company they hold shares in. They're more than capable of doing that. And we have a situation whereby if you were looking to invest in West Ham, we've seen this time and time again with other football clubs. One of the first things that happens is new owners come in and they replace the manager. Now, I know there's a counter argument. Why would you try and replace a manager like David Moyes, who's been almost guaranteeing European football every season at a club of the size of West Ham? Why would you do that? Why would you rock the boat? Hey, just new people come in, new bosses come in, and it's a case of, well, it's not a case of meet the old boss, same as the old boss. It is a case of new boss, new ideas, I think, very much in that sense. So David Moyes knows that he has to finish strongly just to insulate himself from that. And there is no better way of doing it than bringing players in. So I think I was a little bit excited, actually, to, first of all, since yesterday when I did the video on Kalvin Phillips, I found myself getting a little bit more excited about it. No sooner had I pressed the stop button and pressed that on my camera after speaking about Kalvin Phillips, then I started reading the rumours about Emile Smith-Rowe. Now, that took a funny turn because it was in the news. I think ex-West Ham United employee tweeted about it. Fabrizio Romano tweeted off the back of his news. And then ex-West Ham United employee came back and said, actually, it's looking like this isn't going to happen now. Arsenal don't want the player to leave and the player would like to stay at Arsenal. Okay, but for a moment, I allowed myself to get excited. Not just by the prospect of Phillips and Smith-Rowe joining West Ham, but I think the prospect that we might be looking at two players of that calibre. Now, I understand they would both only be loan signings. That's absolutely fine. I think there's still ambition in it. And even if they're loans or they're permanent or whatever, those two players get us over the line. Okay, so Smith-Rowe doesn't happen. I don't think it's completely closed off, by the way. I do think that maybe, just maybe, there is a possibility that we might get him. But even if we're not, let's just say we're looking for Kalvin Phillips, who I do think will make a difference. I think he put Souček onto the bench. I think as long as there's someone coming in of that sort of calibre, and as I mentioned yesterday, could be an attacker, a central midfielder, a central attacking midfielder, a number 10, a right winger, a left winger, somebody that can play across the front. Anyone makes a difference. Anyone just gives David Moyes a viable option so he can look on that bench and think, you know what, I'm going to use one of these guys, as opposed to him looking at the bench thinking, actually, I don't fancy any of this mob, even though I might have bought them. So where does that leave us? Well, I don't think it leaves us being sort of having serious intent in this transfer window, and that is exciting. It's easy, being a West Ham fan to, I think, get downbeat and assume that nothing's going to happen. But this plays into what I was saying at the start of the video. I find it hard to believe that David Moyes believes that he's got enough of a comfort blanket to think that he can just leave it as it is. He knows. He's been in football a long, long time. He's fully aware that more injuries may well come, that come the end of January, everyone comes back from the African Cup of Nations, they're fit, Mikel Antonio's fit. Jared Bowen doesn't pick up another injury for the rest of the season. He is shrewd and long in the tooth enough to know that things happen. So he's going to want better players than he's currently got on that bench. And maybe some that, as I say, put players that are in the first team, put them on the bench. And that makes me excited about it. And there's two players who I think we've been linked with. One of them's more believable than the other. We'll do a transfer roundup tomorrow because a lot can happen in the transfer window over the course of 24 hours. One of them's Jota. Jota plays for... he doesn't play. I was going to say he plays for is Al Ittihad. I think that's the name of the club. They are in the Saudi Pro League. They paid money for him. I think they paid £25 million for him. But he's not played for them and he hasn't been registered. Bit of a weird one. I don't know what's going on there, but he is a talented player. This player will be known to David Moyes, and good because he played at Celtic. If you watch him play, you can't fail, I think, but get the impression that he is the type of player that Said Benrahma should have been, could have been with West Ham. All that trickery, all the tricks, all the flicks, all the flamboyance that you would sort of expect for somebody who has that sort of creative footballing brain, what you'd expect from Benrahma, you see from Jota. It's just almost like Benrahma has been browbeaten to such an extent that he's not got it. He can't conjure up the magic anymore. He's lost his confidence. This guy appears to have it in abundance. Now, there's an intangible here. There's something that we don't quite know, and that is whether or not this guy Jota has lost his mojo in the intervening period whilst not playing, in the Saudi League for 6 months. We don't know what's going to happen. I'll tell you what's very, very interesting, though, and somebody made this point in the comments section yesterday. Great point. I do apologise. I can't recall who wrote it. But it was. I remember, even if I don't remember who wrote it, I remember the point. It was a good one. They said, won't it be interesting if David Moyes just plays Kalvin Phillips straight away without any talk of acclimatisation to the Premier League? It was words to that effect. This is absolutely true. And I thought about it with this Jota. And I thought if we signed Phillips and we signed Jota, which would be great, you could almost imagine David Moyes now saying, I can't play Jota yet. He needs to take time to acclimatise to the pace of football and so on and so forth. The exact argument could be made for Kalvin Phillips. You can't actually really, with any sort of conviction, call Kalvin Phillips a Premier League player. He doesn't play Premier League football. That's the truth of the matter. So it'd be really interesting to see if David Moyes has sort of double standards on that. The other player is Wilfred Gnonto. We discussed him 2 days ago in the transfer roundup. Not going to discuss him anymore. The thing that I do find interesting in this stuff is the absolute certainty with which the Gnonto stuff is being reported. You're not reading that West Ham are linked with. It's the deal is close to being finalised. Now, I don't know how real that is. I don't know how much I believe that stuff. I would still be surprised if we signed Gnonto, but I think my point here is either one or even another player, Steven Bergwijn. Apologies, that'll teach me not to mute my phone. Even another one, any combination, I think is going to be good as long as they're sort of first team ready. We hear that David Moyes not too keen on Steven Bergwijn actually. So let's just discount that for a moment. The thing what I finish up by saying on Kalvin Phillips is just because we're linked with a player for a long time doesn't mean we're not going to sign them. And I think that's been proven on a couple of occasions. I think Nathan Gerd would be possibly the most recent example of all of them. In fact, rather than it being a reason to suggest we're not going to sign a player, I think as far as David Moyes is concerned, it probably is a reason to suggest we are going to sign a player. And I think when you start hearing more and more rumours about Kalvin Phillips and about how he is close to signing, how we're the front runners, I think it just becomes more believable. But the rumours have gone on for so long. Since he was at Leeds, West Ham tried to buy him. We tried to buy... we tried to buy him. There was this window, wasn't there, where we tried to buy Rafinha, where we tried to buy Kalvin Phillips, and we tried to buy Darwin Núñez, who was at Benfica at the time. And none of them sort of happened. And that, funny enough, they were January. We tried to buy all of them in January. So there's been an interest in Kalvin Phillips for 2 years. So just because we chase someone for a long time doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I don't know. I'm not in the know. Wouldn't claim to be so. So just going on my gut feeling, what do I think? I feel like we're 80% likely to get Kalvin Phillips. But hey, what do I know? I think just finally what I'd probably say on all of this, I think if we get those two players, if we can get everybody back fit or even most of them back fit, and we can sign 2 players of quality of Kalvin Phillips and 1 other, be it Smith Rowe, be it Jota, be it Bergwijn, be it somebody like that, I think it's game on. Because I do believe in our team currently we have one too few attackers, just in the way we normally deploy the team. There's something very exciting about adding to the quality of players like Bowen, like Kudus, like Paquetá. I think that becomes really exciting. It gives the opposition really something to think about. And you also factor in that we have Edson Alvarez. It will also give us somebody that can not only in Phillips play alongside Edson Alvarez, but also cover for him when he's injured or suspended. Then it looks like good business to me. I know the loan fee's a lot, but hey, look, it's not coming out of your pocket. It's not coming out of my pocket. That's for sure. So I guess at a stretch it is. It's coming out of your Sky subscription. It's coming out of your season ticket money, isn't it? But you know what I mean. Loan fees, whatever. Even if it's not everybody's cup of tea. I do think that signing these players almost guarantees us European football next season. I think there's a knock-on effect and a byproduct to that. I think it also would guarantee David Moyes a new contract.